you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Rachel Sullivan. I'm a sophomore. I'm a nursing student. I just came from work, that's why I'm in my scrubs. And I'm Jewish.
All right, very cool. So I'd like to get a diverse perspective of how people interact with interfaith. What does interfaith mean to them? How can we promote interfaith? So you said that you were Jewish. What's your experience being Jewish?
First thing is, half my family is Jewish. My mom is Jewish. My mom's side of the family is Jewish. My dad is Catholic. He was raised Catholic. He still is practicing Catholic. In fact, my mom's still a practicing Jew. My experience as someone who's Jewish was mostly people thought it was really interesting when I was younger. You know, you bring in matzah during Passover, and people are like, can I try some of that? And I'm just like, okay, it's a disgusting dry cracker, but sure. And people would ask about Hanukkah, like, oh, isn't that holiday with 8 days? Isn't that like Jewish Christmas? So I would just get a lot of questions like that. I would have to say, in terms of negative stuff, I really didn't encounter much negativity as a Jew, because at my school there were Sikhs, Jews, and Christians. I'm sure there was probably a couple Muslims, but they weren't as prevalent. And so, you know, people were used to diversity, but the one thing that was really annoying is when I was in like high school, I didn't get off for the Jewish holidays, and so they finally implemented it probably about the year after I graduated, and I was super happy. But there was like people complaining on Twinsburg's Facebook page about, why are we giving our kids another day off? And it's like, because it's a religious holiday. And so I would say I definitely relate to the Jewish community. I wouldn't say I relate to every single thing in terms of the Jewish laws and customs and traditions. You know, because I've been in college, it's been really hard for me to go to temple. I haven't really done a lot of stuff with my faith, but I still consider myself Jewish.
Yeah,
I
sure.
still try to relate to it. I tried to go to services. I ended up going to Rosh Hashanah, but I'm Yom Kippur. And, you know, so I would say I relate to the Jewish community. I think one of the really big aspects of Judaism is community, because of the fact that there's so few of us left.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you just get together in big gatherings of Jews, and it kind of just feels like extended family, mishpachat, that's the word. But, like, you know, they're just kind of like extended family. Even though they aren't your actual family, they're like family.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Very cool. You had mentioned that, like, you think that there are so few of you. Like, has that have been, like, your experience, like, growing up Jewish and, you know, trying to, like, build this community that you feel almost like a minority, like, within this area? Like, I think, like, the number of Muslims is definitely growing, but I also feel like within this particular area, you know, it is something almost like a minority. Like, there's so many people who don't even practice a religious faith or necessarily even have a spirituality. They have some sort of idea, but it's not as concrete as saying, I'm Muslim or I am Jewish.
I usually hear I'm agnostic. That's what I hear from most
Yeah, I
people.
hear that a lot too, and most people don't even know what that means. So it's like, I'm agnostic.
Well, and then I look at them and I go, do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God and that he was resurrected? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you're Christian, got it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah, I would definitely say it's a minority. Actually, in this area, not in Akron specifically, it's closer to Cleveland, but in this area of the country, there are a lot more Jews than in a lot of other areas of the country.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Beechwood, Ohio has a huge population of Jewish people. So does Solon, Ohio. No clue how that happened, but it just did. So in this area, I'm not as much of a minority, but in Twinsburg, Ohio, and Akron, Ohio, I am a minority.
For sure,
In the rest of the world, I am a minority. And so I would definitely say I felt that. I mean, I was one of maybe 10, 15 Jews at my school, and there was 1,200 of us.
Wow, that's a big school.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel to be a minority within a world that doesn't subscribe to particular practices that you have, that you take part in?
It can be a little annoying at times, but I've gotten used to it. I mean, like, when you're a minority since you're born, it's just kind of something you live with. Like,
Sure.
You explain to people, oh, I'm Jewish, and yes, I believe in God, and no, Hanukkah is not Jewish Christmas. And you just kind of explain it over and over, and you figure out how to explain it better each time, and you just kind of get used to it. You get used to the whole, it's Rosh Hashanah, and your professors are going to pronounce it Rosh Hashanah, and that's so wrong.
I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, most people, they'll go Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and I'm like, no.
Okay, I've never said Yom Kippur. I've always said Yom Kippur, right?
Yeah, that's the correct way to pronounce
Yom
it.
Kippur.
Yeah, but you get used to your professors not knowing anything about your religion. I think it would be a lot harder if I was like a very conservative Jew. Because I'm Reformed Jew, things are a lot more fluid for me, but I think it would be a lot harder if I was, Orthodox or conservative Jew and I kept kosher, or if I actually really kept Passover. I think that would be harder.
Sure, for sure. It is difficult to, withhold these beliefs in a world that doesn't necessarily make it easy to practice them. Like, for example, like for me, praying 5 times a day, that's difficult. Like,
I was going to say, how's that going to work?
It's difficult and sometimes almost uncomfortable when you have to explain to someone who's not Muslim or not even religious in any sort of sense that I have to step aside and pray. My parents would always say, like, well, why can't you pray in your head? It's not quite like that. That's not how I choose to practice my prayer. That's not something that I can take place of my 5 daily prayers. And sometimes it's like, it is annoying or frustrating to try to explain it to people. And sometimes it's almost hurtful when people don't understand. You're trying to pray one prayer and you only have that limited amount of time to pray it. It's like, all right, how do I tell my professor I need to step out? Or how do I tell my boss that I work for? Like, I work at a restaurant and it's like, sometimes it's very uncomfortable. Like, if you're busy and you're like, I have to step aside to pray. And it's like, they're busy and they don't understand. They're like, well, I don't understand why you have to do that now. It's like, how do I explain this to you?
I see both sides of it, I can say, but that is really difficult.
So with regard to like interfaith, what are your experiences of interacting with different religious groups, particularly Christians, Muslims, like people of the book? Like, what are your experiences with that?
So I would have to say, because my dad's family is Catholic, that's probably where I have the most interaction. But I was really lucky, my family was never trying to push their religion on me, or like, I don't think they were really pissed at my dad. I would know, I was a baby, but I don't think they were like pissed at my dad for not raising me Catholic. They came to my bat mitzvah, they did readings at my bat mitzvah, they're still proud of me, even though I'm Jewish, like, they don't care. And I, in terms of different communities, I've usually had pretty good experiences.
Great.
I don't normally get people saying stuff like, oh, Merry Christmas and stuff. Although I love Christmas, so I ramble. I love Christmas.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm a Jewish girl that loves the American version of Christmas. I just really do. But yeah, so I absolutely love all this stuff kind of going on with the tree because it feels more cultural. I like buying people gifts. I like Christmas cookies because I'm sorry, but a candy cane does not make me think of Jesus.
Oh yeah, how like the red is supposed to symbolize like the blood of Christ.
It is? I didn't know that. I just thought that they're mint. They're red and white striped mints.
When I grew up, there was like a story behind like the cane, like how the cane, if you turn it upside down and like twist it to the side, it's a J for Jesus, and how like the white is supposed to symbolize like the purity and like the red is supposed to symbolize the blood. And there was like an entire book on this, so I like believed that all the way up until I was like 13 or 14. When you were growing up, that you even had interactions with Islam and Muslims. What were those interactions like, or what can you tell me about those interactions?
So I actually don't remember much about my babysitter, but I had a babysitter named Asma. My mom loves to tell a story of when I know there's one story where I took the prayer cap off of Asma's father's head while he was praying, and he just didn't care and continued praying because he was like, she's a baby, she doesn't understand. And then also at one point, I think maybe Asma was praying or something along those lines, and her daughter like copied her and she went Allah, and I went night night, because I just didn't understand. And so they just treated me like their own, they didn't care.
So how can one promote interfaith? Like, you come from a background that is interfaith, like your mother is Jewish and your father is a practicing Christian. Like, how can one go about implementing interfaith within their daily lives, and why is it important to have that sort of unity among communities?
Just talk to people. I think that's the biggest thing. Hosting actual interfaith things is really important. Just, understanding tolerance, understanding that some people really don't know there are other faiths out there. Like I would ask kids when I was probably 4 or 5, I'd be like, oh, what faith are you? And they'd just look at me with this blank stare because I didn't know there were other faiths. Of course, I did because I was surrounded by them. So just talk to people, have conversations. It's literally the best way to do it. It's important to promote tolerance. Learn more about the Jewish faith and dreidel dreidel and Hanukkah's Jewish Christmas, because I guarantee you, you're wrong. Learn more about Muslims,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would definitely say that's the best way, is just talk to people.